The partnership between the federal government and the city and state governments is extremely important. And I think there's a role we need. My role is to make sure New Yorkers are safe, and the numbers are showing we're doing that. And the partnership of making sure guns don't come into our city. And that's what we want to continue to do with the federal government. We already collaborate with the federal government every morning, 10 a.m. with HIDA, city, state, and federal authorities, to go after shooters and those who bring guns into our cities.
When he talks about the National Guard potentially coming here to New York, and in the event that that happens, is there anything you can do to counteract that? I mean, you know, what would it look like if National Guard's members, you saw in D.C., 2,000 of them on the streets of Washington, if they were here, you know, on 90th Street?
Well, the goal is the relationship between the federal government and D.C. is different than the relationship between New York City and the federal government. And again, our communications with the federal government is we got this. We removed over 23,000 illegal guns off our streets. We're witnessing record levels of decreasing crimes, homicides, and shootings in the first 6 months, and shooting victims in the first 7 months. And so we are very clear, always have been. I have never moved away from the public safety. That's the prerequisite to our prosperity, and we're going to continue to do an amazing job. And if the federal government wants to communicate with us and ask us to go to other municipalities and help them see what we're doing, we're willing to do that, because a safe America is a safe New York City, and we want to help any way we can.
You know, I want to ask you about November election as it relates to that. You know, one of your opponents, Andrew Cuomo, has said if Mamdani gets in office, then Trump takes control of New York City. Then Trump does put the National Guard here. Do you think that could happen?
Andrew would say anything to anyone to get elected. He created this. He passed the cannabis laws. I had to close down 1,500 cannabis shops because of the failed law he passed. He did the bail reform. That's the revolving door criminal justice system that we're looking at. He closed psychiatric beds. So every time you see someone push someone on the subway track because of severe mental health illness, or stab 3 innocent New Yorkers, you have to ask yourself, why do we close those beds? Raise the age. We're seeing young people are victims of crimes more and more, and they're shooters as well. These are all of his bills. I had to fix his mess. And so Mamdani's call to defund police, his calls to legalize prostitution, his calls to empty Rikers Island, they're two of the same people. New York has come too far to go backwards with either one of them.
When I heard the president talk yesterday about cashless bail, you know, I immediately thought of you, because you have been one of the people who has talked about bail reform. Your police commissioner talked about bail reform on Friday with the friendly fire incident involving the officer. The president signing an executive order directing DOJ to look at these jurisdictions that have done cashless bail. What's your take on that? Well,
I've been clear. And I don't believe if someone steals an apple that we should hold them in jail because they can't afford to get out. But if you are possessing an illegal weapon, you commit one of the 7 major crime categories in our city, you are repeatedly an offender, we need to look at the criminal justice system that allows you to continue to go back and you repeat the crime. We saw what happened with the Customs Border Patrol agent. These were repeated offenders. We just had a shooting over the weekend. The individuals involved, they had several gun arrests. That just can't continue to happen. And so using bail appropriately, I think it would help us deal with the public safety issue we're facing in the city.
The president said, you know, crime has continued to rise when they have cashless bail. Is that something that's happened here in the city?
When you remove bail on those who commit serious crimes, it will impact your public safety. We are witnessing that over and over again.
The school system comes back next week. Should parents fear for ICE to be in their schools? You know, in Washington, that was a big fear as they went back to school yesterday, with ICE saying that they may come to some schools of students. We saw a student in Queens, 6 years old, deported by ICE with her mother.
With a family. And so we want to be clear, ICE has not been in our schools. ICE, only way they could come into the schools with clear judicial warrants, or if they are looking at a condition where someone is fleeing, running into the school, a dangerous person, but that's the role of our police officers to do so. And we have been extremely consistent around this. Children should go to school. They're not going to be fearful of having ICE come into their schools. Their directives indicate that as well. People should go to the hospital if they need medical care. They should call the police if they need police assistance. And I know personally what happens when you fail to do that. My rookie years as a police officer, I had a Chinese immigrant that was afraid to call the police when he was being robbed. I took actions while I was off duty, but he was extremely fearful. People can't live in the shadows. That creates disorder, and we don't want that.
Let's go back to your career in the transit police. It's where you met Ingrid Lewis Martin's husband, obviously someone you've known a long time. I just, we heard from you on Friday, but when you hear some of the allegations in the indictment, and, indictments just show a piece of what is being alleged, what did you make of some of the allegations you heard?
Well, first of all, let's think about this for a moment. Like I said, Ingrid's like a sister to me. And I'm pretty sure you have close relationships in your life. And the worst thing you want to do is not allow people their due process. And when you're dealing with criminal cases, every word you say could harm that person who's dealing with that case. And I'm not going to do anything to harm someone that's like a sister to me. I'm very clear. She's in my prayers. She has an attorney, and anything that's dealing with that case should be brought to her attorney. I would not do anything that's going to be harmful to someone that's like a sister to me.
How would you say your week was last week? Because you had the situation with Ingrid, Jesse Hamilton as well, and then you also had the situation with Winnie Greco. Just what's your thoughts on what happened with Winnie Greco, and then also, it was, I saw by Friday it was a week.
Yeah, no, not to me. I had 237,000 migrants and asylum seekers. I inherited COVID. I inherited a city that was hemorrhaging jobs. I had thousands of illegal guns on our streets, ghost cars on our streets. Cannabis shops are open. People wrote off New Yorkers. Not only was I dealing with those who were committing crimes, I had to deal with rats everywhere. But look, everywhere that we dealt with, we got up every day and we did the job.
But the red envelope in a potato chip bag. I mean, when you heard about this, what did you think of it?
First, I want to go back. More jobs in our city history, 12 months of tourism, 12 months of Broadway, the best in the city's history, unemployment drop, crime drop, illegal vehicles off our street, all of those things. I'm not going to be judged by a red envelope in a paper bag. I'm going to be judged by how I improved the lives of New Yorkers. It was a stupid thing to do. I don't understand the conversation she had with the reporter. I don't have the history of it. It's not something that we would do in our campaign. I made that clear. I don't know what that was about. And now she's no longer volunteering, or she was never an employee of the campaign, and she was long time no longer in City Hall. So only the reporter and Winnie can explain to us exactly what that was about. I don't know what it was about, and it's not acceptable behavior on my part.
Let's talk campaign, because we've talked about the campaign plenty of times. Private meetings, public meetings, where have you. You're polling in the single digits behind Mamdani. I've heard you talk about, the state of the race when you were running last time, but that was sort of during the primary. Now we're in the general election. Just tell me sort of what's your strategies to win in November, and how you think you could pull through.
Well, a couple of things. As I said over and over again, when you look at this distance from the primary to the election, the same time period, Mamdani was at 1%. No one called for him to step out of the race. And if we did, we would have been premature because he won the primary. And we need to be clear that seems to be a fact that everyone is missing. We also missing the fact that I was in third place in 2021 behind Andrew Yang, who was beating me by double digits. Some polls have me in double digits. Some polls have me in single digits. Polls had Andrew Cuomo up by 10% before the election. He lost by 12%. He was up 36%. So when you start to talk about the polls, the only poll that matters on election day, who's going to have the most votes? I must do what I'm good at doing, campaigning, getting my information out to the public so they can see the success of where we were and where we are. This city has turned around. I mean, if we want to be honest about it or not, and I have to explain that to the voters.
So the message is Eric Adams is staying in no matter what?
Yes.
You're not signing any pledge?
Yes, I'm staying in no matter what. Who created the pledge? Andrew. You know, one candidate that was at 1% in the poll all of a sudden said whoever's up by a certain number in September should win. That's all Andrew's creation. Trust me when I tell you, he creates these scenarios so that people can believe he's doing the right thing. He lost the race, $35 million, up by double digits, didn't get out in campaign, and he lost the race. People heard his message already.
Let's get to some Bloomberg topics here. You know, one of your biggest accomplishments that you've stated has been City of Yes. Just tell me, you know, what it took to get that through. Housing, a big issue for, you know, voters and for people who own homes here, who want to own homes here. You have a lack of places to put homes, but City of Yes changed that. Just, you know, explain how that's worked out.
In so many ways, you know. Many people talk about affordability, but never use their offices to actually produce affordability. Like I said, 5 people running for office, 3 people don't have a record. 1 person is running from his record. I have a record. City of Yes is going to produce housing throughout the city, because housing in New York is not just a Manhattan or Brooklyn or areas that would gentrify. It's the entire city. Never before have we witnessed this most comprehensive housing and rezoning policy in the history of our city. We have built, renovated, and planned rezoning for 426,000 units of housing in the next decade. I mean, this is unbelievable when you think about it. We did it in 3.5 years. That number is larger than 12 years of Bloomberg, 8 years of de Blasio combined in 3.5 years. We are the most housing-forward administration in the history of this city, and we got projects off the ground that many have tried, like Willis Point, 2,400 units of affordable housing, Flushing Airport, hundreds of units of affordable housing, Union built. And so City of Yes is part of the overall package that we're doing. 5 rezonings in each borough, 50,000 units of housing that's coming out of that. So we know New Yorkers must be housed, but you got to match housing with using the resources of city to make the city affordable. Decreasing the cost of child care, universal child care, no income tax for low-income New Yorkers, none at all. What we have done.
Well, that sounds like, you know, like no income tax for low-income New Yorkers sounds a lot like a Mamdani proposal, and you know that requires going to Albany to get that done. People may say, you know, you've been in office for, you know, nearly 4 years. You know, how come you haven't been able to get that done? You know, just make the case for how you could get that done. You know, with 4 more years. Well,
no, we already got it done. There is no income tax for low-income New Yorkers. And then what you do is each year you go to Albany. They call it a 10-cup day for a reason. You go up there to beg for your proposal. But look at each year. Each year we got exactly the things we asked for. Mayoral control, we got the no income tax, we got housing reform, renovating our office spaces into permanent housing, low income housing, we got the public safety initiative, we got the involuntary removal. So you're seeing each year we brought back what we needed from the city. And so in 3 years and 8 months, we've done a great job of partnering with our Albany lawmakers.